Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker, along with my colleague, John North. Our guest this morning is Mark Cunningham, back with us from the Beacon Center in Tennessee. And the Beacon Center of Tennessee is a nonpartisan nonprofit group that is out with a new poll this week. It was taken October 5th through the 16th through close to 1,200 people. Plus or minus 2.8%. Keep those numbers in mind. Mark, good to have you back. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Don Bosch is a Democrat and also a lawyer. He's on our panel.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Susan Richardson Williams is a Republican, and she runs her own PR firm.
And Susan.
Mark, let's start with a little background on these polls. You, as the Beacon Center of Tennessee, decided to do at least 4 a year. Explain your rationale.
Yeah, ultimately, there's just not a good poll in the state of Tennessee. There's not any kind of unbiased polls, and there's not even a regular poll. So we're the first quarterly poll in the state. We just want an accurate depiction of where Tennesseans stand, and we thought by doing this, it would give everyone the opportunity to see that.
We're going to talk politics, stadiums, healthcare, and let's begin with healthcare and show the first numbers. One of the questions that you ask is, who or what do you blame for high health care costs in the U.S.? And we'll leave this graphic up for just a bit so you can take in what it says. Mark, what do you make of the results of that question?
So there's a lot of consensus on healthcare between Republicans and Democrats. This is one area there was not consensus. Ultimately, Democrats were more likely to blame healthcare companies for what's happening here and insurance companies. And essentially that was about 35% of Democrats blame them, while Republicans and independents were more likely to blame the government and some of the rules they put into place. So this is one place we saw a difference, but I mean, it's really across the board. You have 12%, 13%. I mean, there's all these numbers that are close, but the top two by far were health insurance companies and the government and the restrictions.
Well, Mark, it's interesting, the government. I'm wondering if the people that are polled sort of understand that unless you're on Medicare or Medicaid, it's private insurance companies. And of course, I'm a Democrat, and they favored insurance companies being to blame, and that's certainly what I believe, along with pharmaceutical companies. And Susan and I talked a little off air about it. I think there's some blame all the way across the board. But did that division strike you a little bit as odd? Because really, I don't know how accurate that necessarily is about government being the cause of the cost. They certainly are part of it, but being the biggest cause, according to at least over half of our state in the Republicans.
Yeah, I think generally Republicans are more likely to blame the government for things, where ultimately the Democrats are more likely to blame the private sector for things. So it's kind of consistent with what we see in other places.
Well, right. Don't you think maybe the years that we heard about Obamacare and a government health program might be part of the reason you're hearing Republicans blame the government?
That's certainly possible.
Which, by the way, has been wildly successful by most metrics. So
I'm always interested, and one of the things I appreciate about the poll is that you look at the grand division. So in this question, I'm curious, do you see sort of a stronger feeling that the government is the problem in the East Grand Division versus, say, West Division, where they might be saying, it's the providers or it's the gougers?
Yeah, and there wasn't a huge difference in this one, but in general, East Tennessee was more likely to blame the government. And again, it's a more conservative part of the state, so it does fit with the rest of the polling.
It makes sense.
Let's move on to the presidential election and get to some politics here and move to the question of who are you more likely to vote for in the 2024 presidential election? And this includes RFK as one option. And take a look at that. Donald Trump, the overwhelming favorite there at 48%, but RFK with 19%, and it's where those votes are coming from that is raising some eyebrows. Mark, explain what you found here.
Yeah, this number is probably pretty scary for President Trump right now, because you see his 31-point lead, which we'll talk about later, has decreased to 25 when RFK Jr. is on the ballot. So maybe, that might not matter that much in Tennessee, but in other swing states, if you talk about places like Nevada, Ohio, Michigan, that could be a real issue. So I expect the Trump campaign will be keeping an eye on those numbers.
Off air, you made the point that this poll does mirror the results of other polls, seeing that poll from Trump voters to RFK, correct?
Yep, national polls show that it's taking a little bit more from Trump than it is from Biden right now.
All right, let's move quickly to this other, and then we'll get your thoughts on it, Don and Susan and John. If a presidential election were held today, would you vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden? And you see Donald Trump with a 61 to 30% margin there. Mark, what do you make of that?
I mean, ultimately, the last couple of months have not been great for President Biden. His approval rating's gone down, and you kind of see that in Tennessee, where a lot of independents have gone from undecided to Trump in the past couple months.
Any thoughts on this?
Well, we don't apportion electors in the state of Tennessee, and I don't think there's any way that Joe Biden, under the best of circumstances, catches whoever the Republican nominee is. I still stand it won't be Trump, but frankly, he could be a hamster, and it's going to go Republican. So.
Well, I would agree with that. Trump is incredibly popular in Tennessee. And
So would a hamster.
Among Republicans, has got 70 or 80% approval in Tennessee, which I still find astounding, given all of the trouble he's in right now.
It looks impenetrable right now.
Well, I think he is. I mean, I've seen other polling, just Republican Party polling, and it's astounding how popular he is.
Here's a suggestion for the
Terrifying
next
would be the
poll.
word I would pick.
If Trump were in jail, would you still vote for him as president?
Yeah, that
No,
would've
I'm
been a
serious.
great
I'm
question.
It wouldn't
serious.
change much.
It's
I
not a
don't think.
joke.
I agree with
It's
Mark.
not a
It
joke.
would not change
No, I
very
don't think
much.
it would change it. I don't think it would
And
change it.
any other closing thoughts about the presidential race in Tennessee in this poll particularly?
Well, I mean, I just think RFK is a strong third-party candidate. We put Joe Manchin, only 6% supported him. So RFK does really bring from both sides, and he's one of the very few candidates who could do that as a third party.
I'm very curious about that. One would think he would take away from Biden, not from Trump. And what your poll shows that it really decreased Trump's support. Why is that? Do you have any data as to why?
Well, he did take away from both. I mean, he's been criticizing Joe Biden for the last 4 months.
Right.
Republicans have been propping him up on social media, like saying, "Oh, look at this in the
Right.
vaccine," where people who might not love Trump or want another option see him as somebody, I don't love Trump, but I like what this guy stands
Yeah,
for.
and despite the family name, Susan, what he stands for sounds a whole lot more
Well, he-
GOP-ish than it does
I would
Democrats.
suggest the Democrats know better. The Democrats are like,
Yeah.
not him.
Well, when his own family, the rest of the Kennedys say, he's crazy, don't vote for him, that should be a sign.
Well, we're going to come back and talk more about the Senate race because the poll touches on that as well. That's going to be a big change in this state if it happens. Will it? Well, the poll numbers will tell us yes or no. We're going to have more on that coming back on Inside Tennessee.